to Gaming Mayhem. Today we're doing a big 40k battle. It's going to be 6,000 against 6,000. 6,000 orcs against 2,000 each of Blood Angels, Iron Hand Successor, and Armored Battle Group. So we're going to use the Apocalypse rules with a couple little subsets. I'll go ahead and show you the board, and then we'll review the armies. Alright, here is our board for today. Those of you wondering about the orc painting, I've been painting terrain, so I'll get to the orcs eventually. So, got an 8-foot by 4-foot board here. And over here you can see we have some Zone Mortalis sections. Those can be entered through this access point, or through over there through either of those buildings. And then once you get in those buildings, you access them through the doors. From the sides, you can access right here, going into there. And if you come in from this side of the board, you can go in through here. And over here, there's no easy access, so we're going to have people can enter at this point, and you have to move around. The objective markers, see there's one inside there, and one inside there. Over here, at the back of the building, so this will be active, but there's an invisible wall, except where the doors are. Objective marker, top of this building. And there's one at the control panel for the generator. Of course, over here, Fortress, which is just terrain. It doesn't actually have, it wasn't purchased. It doesn't have the upgrades. And got one way up here. We're going to deploy to the left and right of the board just to make sure we can keep everything on there. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll start reviewing the armies. Alright, here is the Orc Horde. Let's go through what we got here. This is just a Death Dread, 4 power claws. This is the Red Commandos with Snickerat running them. Here is a couple combinations of the Gazgul formation and the other formation, and plus a pack of 10 knobs. Those are going to be inside the Gargantuan Squiggoth, and that is a custom Stompa there. Pretty much as you see, Iron Belly Gun and the Lifted Dropper. Here is the Biker Mob. I got a with a Shock Attack gun, got a Pain Boy on a bike, and that is oh, what's his face? The Ripper. And we got 3 full units of Slugganoms with 2 rocket launchers each, and a Boss Knob, both with a Power Claw. Again, I could have had a lot more models, but I went for the more interesting stuff and less board occupation space. So these guys are armed with different things. I got the Choppa of Destiny, the Kildaka gun. See, there's a big mech there with a teleporter. There's some Groznik. Got a Weird Boy in there. 2 Shock Attack guns, because I can fire those from the Squiggoth. So there you go. That is the 6,000 point Orc Horde. Alright, the evil Imperium has decided to set up first using sneaky tactics. So we actually forgot about the bidding, and we went ahead and just agreed to put half the units in strategic reserves on both sides. The orcs have these guys, and the Gargantuan Squiggoth are all in strategic reserve. And we're going to start with the Armored Battle Group. What do we got here?
Fully loaded Leman Russ. The fully loaded Shadow Sword. Command Tank with Eric the Lion Lannister. Lehman Russ, and then I have 2 Lehman Russes in reserve and a Punisher in reserve.
And let's go over here. We have some Iron Hands.
Right. These are Devastator Marines in this building here. This building is a 3-up, by the way. I've reinforced it.
Okay. From the Master of the Forge.
Right. With my 3 Tech Marines. My Terminator Librarian, 2 Tech Marines in the back to provide support. And I also have my Scouts in a building. And here is my Warlord. Technically, he's a regular Tech Marine, but I'm going to model Iron Thane Valen Cal, a Forge World unit.
Woohoo!
Yes. And this is his Honor Guard plus a couple of Servitors, because who doesn't like Servitors?
And there are some Blood Angels in here.
Yeah, Blood Angels by proxy right now. Blood Angel squad with a Psyker and Terminator armor right now.
Where's the other Blood Angels?
Well, it's
They're all off board?
It's in one other squad is in Storm Raven.
Uh-huh. And the rest are in Strategic Reserve.
That's correct.
Alright, we'll see what where these come on at. Okay, that is the initial deployment with Strategic Reserve still off the board. The Orks did fail to seize the initiative, and night fighting is in effect. So we will move to the first phase of the traitorous Imperium turn. Alright, at the end of the movement phase, I think almost everything moved in. And you can see the Terminators, they deep struck into the fortification next to the Ork boys, and everything else kind of just moved up. The Storm Raven came on and dumped off a bunch of Blood Angels. So that will take us into the Psychic phase. Alright, Psychic phase. The Blood Angels got off the Shield of Sanguinus on the unit over there in the Zone Mortalis section. The Orks tried to stop it, but failed to stop it with 7 dice. And then the Iron Hand cast of the Hand of Iron, or
Iron Arm.
Iron Arm, and got that off because there were no more dice left on the Orc side. So he is now +3 Strength and +3 Toughness.
And Smash Special Rule.
And has the Smash rule in effect. On to the shooting.
Ooh.
Alright, into the shooting phase. Pretty much everything fired, everything they could. One of the bubble fields was knocked off of the Stampa. The guys in the fortress took a couple wounds. The bikers got annihilated by the D-plate, and the far unit of Orks suffered some pretty heavy wounds. They failed their test, but they're breaking heads. They just bashed each other and managed to stay in the fight. So this will take us to the first Ork turn.
No, we still have a slot.
Alright, the Ork movement phase. Everybody kind of charged up. The guys I brought everybody in off of from Strategic Reserve. We declared the finest hour and did that with the Biker boys to make sure they got up in there before they were all destroyed. And we rolled the trait. So Gazgul has his he get the +2 attacks. I actually screwed up. I thought everybody got it, and so that's completely wasted. Anyway, on to Psychic phase. Alright, at the end of the bottom of turn 1, the Orks all moved up. The Biker Knobs assaulted the Storm Sword? Shadow Sword, which I'll never remember the name of that thing. And they blew it up with the Power Claws. The explosion took out the Tech Marine standing next to it, but didn't hurt any of the Bikers. The Belly Gun lobbed way over there and it scattered. Yeah, it actually didn't scatter, but it was like 14 inches, so it took 2 of the Blood Angels with it. So now we're into top of turn 2. Alright, as you just saw, that was the bottom of the movement phase for the Imperium. The Warhound Titan came in from Strategic Reserve, as well as one of the Lehman Russ tanks, and some repositioning pretty much. Drop pod came in over there near the orc mob, and the counter guy there next to the crater is the Squigoth. It just wasn't feasible to put him there in front of the Night Titan without breaking off one of his resin pieces. Alright, we forgot to do an end-of-turn sweep of the board, so we'll do that now after the movement phase. The Squigoth is not actually here. He's up there where that guy is. Just couldn't fit him in there until the knight moved back. So I guess I will move him up there in a second. Let me see this, getting ready for some good fighting here. More evil Space Marines on both sides. Yeah, Storm Raven's creeping up over there. In the Zone Mortalis area here, we got a horde moving up. Another horde here, getting ready to fight against these Space Marines who are going to shoot the hell out of them. They're backed up by those guys. And that banner gives everybody within 24 inches feel no pain. So that's kind of a pain. But we'll see what happens.
You will.
Alright, the Imperial shooting phase laid waste to the Orks on the far side near objective marker 4. The Warhound managed to pop the bubble field on the Stampa. The Zharjnik's biker boys are down to just him. The Squigoth took 2 wounds. And other than that, and the Commando Flamers got annihilated, and then they didn't have any more shots because the other guys haven't come around the corner yet in the Zone Mortalis area. Alright, on to some assaulting. Alright, at the end of the assault phase, the Knight killed the Squigoth, and that unit all jumped out, and they're getting ready to fight the Knight later. The other assault against the Orcs, they lost, I think, 16, 17 dudes in total? 15. They failed their morale check, but they got a 1 on the Orc chart, so they managed to stay in combat. So moving on to the top of Orc turn 2. Alright, you can see the movement phase. All the Orc stuff scurried its way forward, moving up to grab and hold as many objective markers as we can. And we'll see how that works going into the psychic phase. The shooting phase was fairly productive. Knocked out one of the Lehman Russ tanks, and they managed to kill 1 Marine in the Zone Mortalis area. The other sluggish shots from the knobs that broke off there didn't do much, so we're going to see what the close combat yields. The Lifter Dropper missed. The Gaze of Mork managed to do 2 hull points, and then the Death Storm knocked out the rest of the tank. Alright, at the end of the turn, the assaults have been resolved. The Knight was destroyed. The Space Marines were wiped out by the knobs in the building. And now let's see what our end of turn 2 tally is. Okay, now we're at the top of turn 3. During the Apocalypse, strategic point things are a little different than the regular game. You don't have to be within 3 inches. It's whichever unit is closer ends up controlling it. So, given that regard, the Orcs ended up getting 5 of them total, with the Imperium having 1. Now, this is the bottom of turn 2. We'll also score at turn 4 and 6, with turn 4 each of them being worth 1 double points, so 2 each, and at the end of turn 6 each is worth 3. So, as the game progresses, it will make quite a bit of difference. So, on to the top of 3. Alright, the movement phase saw a lot of repositioning. The Zone Mortalis door was opened so they could fire in there, and we'll see how that works. Alright, in the shooting phase, the Orc commandos were whittled down severely, and the main mob of guys around Gazgul was eliminated down to just Gazgul and the Big Mech with the custom force field. So we'll see how this assault phase goes. Alright, that was the bottom of turn, or the top of turn 3 for the Imperium. They managed to leave the Knob with 1 wound in the fortress. They didn't do very well in the Zone Mortalis due to bad rolls, but they tied in combat, so they're going to remain locked in combat. Now it's going to go into the Orc turn. Alright. As you can see here, we're going into the bottom of 3 Orc turn. Titans are still locked in combat. The Warhound has 2 hull points remaining. Ghazghul is bravely venturing there by himself. And over here we had a brutal battle ongoing in the Mortalis area. Hopefully the commandos can do something besides get shot this turn. Alright, on the movement phase, the Orcs spent a strategic resource point to bring back in the gargantuan Squigoth. Otherwise, you can see pretty much everybody moved up. Commandos moved up, hopefully, to within assault range this time, and they won't fail the assault like last time. The Knobs are moving over towards the tank. There will be no psychic phase. So, on to the meager shooting phase, and then the assault. Alright, at the bottom of 3, the Terminators have cleared out the last Orc Knob and seized the fortress. The Commandos, down to 3 models with Snickerot himself, they held off, and it was a draw. The other group of Orc boys against the Tech Marine, they fought to a draw also. The Leman Russ was destroyed by the Knobs. The Warhound Titan was blown up, finally, by the Stampa. And I think... Oh, in the assault phase, Ghazghul failed his assault, rolling snake eyes, so he got stuck there looking like an idiot. The giant Squigoth failed its assault as well against the Terminators, so those are 2 nothing going on assaults. We will see what happens here in the top of 4. Alright, in the movement phase, some strategic repositioning, and they brought back the Shadow Sword with a strategic resource. And otherwise, we're going to see what happens here in the, psychic phase, but mostly shooting and then their assault. Alright, over here, the Snickerot and his guys, they managed to stay in combat. They lost combat, but rolled a 2, so they chose, since they're both characters, they couldn't kill anybody, so they stayed locked in combat. The other unit of boys also rolled a 2, and so the boss Knob attacked and bashed into the Orcs, but they made their armor saves, so they stayed in combat. Meanwhile, over here you can see the shooting laid waste to the Knob thing. Single Leman Russ actually killed all of them in one shot. Other than that, the couple boys that were hidden in the building over next to the Terminators and the Squigoth are wiped out. So the only Orc units on the board are the Stampa, the Squigoth, and the couple boys and Snickerot over there. So this is the Orc turn 4, and we'll play this one out, and then pretty sure the Orcs aren't going to have enough to come back. Alright, we're nearing the end of the game here.
You're fine!
The Squigoth, he held off against those Terminators. He only won combat by 1. He didn't do much. The Stampa destroyed the Shadow Sword again, blew that up. Over here, this was the morale test taken by the amazing Sergeant over here. Somehow they failed miserably, and then they failed all of their armor saves. So Snickerot and this Commando Boss Knob here are going to hold out. The only other combat we got is here. And then we'll tally up the points at turn 4. And we'll see what happens. Alright, here we are for our AR after our 6,000 point Apocalypse game. The 3 armies on my Orcs. One of the guys had to leave to get home to the family, so he won't be here to review it, but this was our first game actually playing the Apocalypse rules with 7th edition. So there's a little bit of a learning curve in how the objectives are taken, since you don't they don't have the 3-inch rule, and basically every objective is claimed every time you do it. Now, we didn't do the breaks, like the book suggests doing it in breaks, because that's kind of weird and random, so we did it every other turn. So turn 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. would have them. As you saw, we went ahead and we called the game in turn 4, and I called it with an Imperial victory. And my reason for that, while there were still a couple units left in the Zone Mortalis, they were weakened, and unless you kept up those really bad rolls, they were gonna die. But I don't know, if you kept those up, they might have won. So that is going to be collapsed over there, which left me with only the Stomp Up and the Squig Off. Now, I could keep spending points to bring him back on, but in that turn alone, they already had 9 points to my 10. And they outnumbered me in units, plus they had more units they could bring back, like his tanks. They could start spending points to bring back the tanks, etc., etc. And I met with a max of 2 units. I could bring back the Dread, but he's going to get wiped out, with what they have on the board, just because he's not tough enough. And I don't have anything else to draw the fire. So by turn 6, again, if I had 2 with each victory, each marker being worth 3 points, they would have been really far ahead. Now, what do you think of your army selections? They each picked 2,000 points in any kind of whatever, no limitations on what they could pick, but each army was 2,000 points, and the Grand Warlord was it Captain whatever, your guy?
Yeah, he was a command tank.
Just a command tank. So that kind of helped him. And you did the finest hour. Interestingly, by the time you got to do that, you had there was so many vehicles, it didn't really help that much.
The reason I did it, though, was because I was hoping for a good strategic thing that you roll off on. So we got it, and it was we got to re-roll failed to hits on your general's unit, which pretty much allowed us to decimate.
Yeah, and that was why. Yeah, I didn't mention that in the report, but that was why Gazgul's unit. That's what got that unit annihilated, because everybody shooting on him, and every unit they had shot at them got to re-roll failed to hit, so they just laid waste to them.
And I had a Centurion squad at point blank range, so twin-linked heavy bolters, everyone.
And hurricane bolters. Yeah, those things are pretty awesome. So they did a lot of damage too. And when you make a bigger army list like that, because in my case I was making an actual 6,000 point list, you could take a lot more orcs. But in a game like that, I'm not sure it would have really helped, because with stuff like those pie plates going down, and like what happened with that one unit of knobs, a single Leman Russ wiped out in a unit there was 8 knobs left in it. It was originally a 10-man unit of all knobs with power claws, so I think that was around 600 and something points in one shot. So it's really risky to take these mass units of boys that you want to take, because, and again, they get in combat, only the knobs can even hurt anything. So that's why I went more specialty character heavy. And originally the commandos were supposed to do more damage, but they just kept getting shot to hell trying to come through those tunnels.
Well, and it was Zone Mortalis, so the Space Marines had better, they had a slightly better chance.
Because they had the armor. And my armor save is so bad, because commandos only get a 6 up. You can't make it better.
Right, and they got to within rapid fire range, so when your guys start filing through the door, they just...
There's a reason they call doors fatal funnels.
Yeah.
You go in them and it's just...
It worked exactly like it was, but it also added a nice element too. We had this huge, massive blasting area over here, and then the, tight, intimate slaughter fest going on over there.
It was very intimate.
Yeah, I like that. I thought that was kind of cool.
But I do think, I have to disagree. I think if you took more units of just boys or just kind of regular guys, it would have helped you more, because you could have secured more objectives. You could have had more guys in Zone Mortalis and just flooded it with guys. I'm not saying go completely green tide, but maybe instead of the Squig Off or something, you have its equivalent points of guys who can just flood the market.
That's basically a lot of guys, man.
Exactly. You have them, I mean...
but it's so cool looking.
Yes, it is.
Also,
I tend to fall prey to it looks cool, and I want to take it because it looks cool, regardless of how effective it is.
I'd also like to point out that my Devastators and Centurions are shit in close combat, so if you had a group of regular boys, they would have been able to kill them.
Yeah, assuming I could have made it up there.
Yeah, that's true. They were all the way in the back.
See, the thing is, one of the things that I find too, you got like a Squiggoth, it draws a lot of fire.
Yeah.
And you guys did. You killed it. I mean, you went right at it and shot everything because you didn't want it to get in there.
He chopped its head off with the Titan.
But it also delivered the payload of with Gazgul.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, the Titan took it out. So had he not been doing that, the Titan could have been fighting somebody else. So I'm gonna have to try maybe a little more thuggy heavy thing and see how that works. And I thought your Shadow Sword did some good damage with the bikers because they kind of run the board in most of our games. If I take that unit, he only made it to turn 2.
Here's something that I still need to test out, and if anybody out there has their opinions, I'd like to hear them.
On YouTube?
Sure, whatever.
Nobody has opinions on YouTube.
Is it worth taking a Shadow Sword or just taking a squadron of regular Leman Russes? Is the Shadow Sword by itself better than a unit of Leman Russes? Yes, it has the D weapon, but 3 Leman Russ tanks has 3 battle cannons.
Well, and again, 1 Leman Russ took out a whole unit of knobs. Mm-hmm. Your Shadow Sword would have been better. I think the only time the Shadow Sword can validate its cost is if you're fighting something like another gargantuan creature or another super heavy, where the D weapon can actually do that oomphy, where you can roll the
which I've never been able to get off.
It never yeah, no, for some reason you never ever roll that. I don't know why, but you never get a chance to do it. But in that case, I think it would be useful. Now, surprisingly, the Warhound
sucks.
I was really shocked.
Oh,
now,
don't take it.
Well, again, it range. See, here's the things. He had the Gatling gun and the other cannon, which are both great, but he used them on the Titan.
Yeah.
The Titan has the bubble fields.
That was a terrible
It
idea.
knocked out its bubble fields, but it's a Orc Titan, so and it had the close combat weapon. It's a close combat Titan. It gets 4 base attacks as a Titan. It's better. It's actually better than a Knight at close combat, and it has a good weapon skill. It's actually meant for fighting in close combat. They have one variant where you take like 2 claws. It's like crazy, and I think that's part of the problem. The Warhound is something, and if you look at its thing, it can do like a double run. Also, it can choose, like it can move 12 and then it can run twice if it wants to not fire. So it would be more something, I think you'd use it as a flanker. Like, oh, there's the Titan.
Yeah.
And run over the, move your 12 inches and then run twice across the board, and then all of a sudden you're in the back of the enemy lines firing back at it. I think that, because I don't think you can actually take a Warhound with close combat weapons.
No,
I think it's just a range thing. So when you get, and against most things, it wouldn't matter.
Well, and I think one of the things is that you don't take the typical Orc army of quantity over quality. You like things that can actually do something and not just waste space.
Well, and I don't like setting up some New Yorks.
Yeah, so we're not dealing with the typical, yes, against a typical Orc army, my Shadow Sword, hell, my Leman Russes, and the Titan would have just knocked everything out. But we were dealing with things that were really high toughness, had force fields, had
Well, but at that point value, you're always going to have that, I think. I mean, when you're jumping up a 6,000 point army, I got to take that. I can't just keep taking Orcs. My God.
Could
just have like a blanket of Orcs.
Yes.
Put them on a movement tray. Like
Is
a
that
6-foot movement tray.
Is that a green blanket?
It's really what it would be.
Just lay a green blanket on the battlefield. Those are my Orcs.
It was interesting to play it. I'm not. You forgot to use your orbital bombardment.
I never wanted to spend the points.
We didn't
But
want
see,
to.
now you could have. Once you had the 9, it would be well worth it.
No, I don't think it would have been worth it because you only had 2 units. 2
Yeah.
units. And
At that point it isn't because you only have 2 things to hit.
When I wanted to use it, you were on top of me, so I didn't want to take the risk of
it would
bombing
have scattered on
guys.
yourself. Yeah, which
You
makes
always
sense.
tend to use very Stalin-esque tactics of like swarm them and just stay on top of them so you can't hit them.
They have to. They can't shoot at all. Now, this time the lifter dropper thing actually worked twice in one game.
Yes.
So it's a good weapon. I mean, you got to roll a 5 or 6 to hit with it. If you don't, it
That's
just doesn't do it.
33%. I don't want to hear about how that's bad percentages. That is great percentages.
But it's really expensive.
Okay,
He's a bit butthurt.
Ted Williams was the greatest hitter of all time with a batting average of 33%. So 33% is a good average.
But did he have a D weapon?
He did. These guns. That's what he had.
So it was fun to play overall. We moved up to an 8-foot board for that, and it felt like we had a little more maneuverability. Again, the extra
agree.
2 feet were the Zone Mortalis.
Yeah.
But in our size games, I can see that working on a regular basis. I don't think 8 feet's too
well,
bad.
with the Apocalypse games, I would say if you're going to play Apocalypse, read up on it before you play, so that way you know all the ins and outs of it.
Yeah, but we're men. We don't read instructions.
Right.
Ever.
You did. That's how
Yeah,
you
I
were
did.
able to know.
Yeah, I got nothing else better to do, right? Well, I tried to read it again. It's kind of complex, and if you haven't, some of the Apocalypse stuff is cool. Kind of incorporate what you want. Honestly, if you read through a lot of books, because a lot of the scenarios they have are insane and require like 40-foot boards and like what? Who has this room? Let alone that much terrain and custom-made boards. But you know, I think it helped with the amount of units we had. It moves it along a little faster. Mm-hmm. If we had the other ones, you could have been really gimped by the cards, and it would have been a slower pace because it's just a lot of units on the board. But
Yeah.
I don't know, overall, I think it was fun. We had a good time. Worked out well. Let us know what you thought of this review. Give us some input if you have any strategy tactics for the tanks here. Let us know, and we'll see you here next time at Gaming Mayhem.